this is Gila. Personally, I've had experience of voting in two different electoral systems. In Britain, where I grew up and spent the first 40 years of my life, we vote using a pencil by placing an X by the chosen candidate. Voting always takes place on a Thursday. I've no idea why that day was chosen, and the results are known, except for the most remote areas, by the next morning. Perhaps pencil isn't totally secure, but on the other hand, it would leave a mark if anyone tried to erase it. The first past-the-post system, where there are 650 constituencies, with the winner of the local voting within each one being elected to the British Parliament, has both strengths and weaknesses. The strength is that this system usually provides a clear majority for the political party forming the government, and that creates strong government. But the weakness is that it is deeply unfair viewed overall. New parties have very little chance of making it under this system, and if you support the wrong party in many constituencies, where either the Labour or Conservative candidate will always get in, your vote effectively doesn't really count. In Israel, where I've been living now for a number of years, we have proportional representation. You don't mark a paper and you don't vote for a specific candidate. You simply pick out a paper with the Hebrew letters representing the party you're choosing, put it in an envelope and seal it and place it in a box. Again, the votes are all counted by the next morning, but you have no idea who will be running the country because no party, and there are many, will win outright. Negotiations to form the next government then take place over the following weeks and even months. Usually the coalition breaks down early, and we all head to the election booths once more. In the last 2 years, we've had 4 elections because no effective coalition could be agreed upon except for a few months. And the last election in March this year ended up with Naftali Bennett becoming Prime Minister instead of Netanyahu by making an unlikely coalition as religious Zionists, sort of, with centrists and even a very small Arab party. So far it's actually working, but how long for is anyone's guess. Neither system uses machines. People count the votes. What is clear from the huge controversy surrounding what actually happened in the USA in November 2020 is that returning to old-fashioned methods of counting votes by hand is probably a very good idea. Any system which uses intervention to recast ballots and put all the information in machines, and which uses software run by a private company, surely makes any kind of possible cheating much easier to do. Now, I know there are many millions more people in the USA than in Britain or tiny Israel, and there's a large land area. What is wrong with making the areas where people count votes by hand much smaller and spending the money that would otherwise be used for expensive machinery or more people employed to count the results? It's frankly ridiculous to extend voting to weeks or to have mail-in ballots without good reason and careful checks of the identity and right to vote. Anyone who tries to vote illegally should be subject to arrest and legal penalty. What has appalled me is that there were clear indications that something didn't add up last November at the time. Blocking out windows and preventing Republicans from watching the counting in any meaningful way should have been stopped immediately and local law enforcement sent in to ensure fairness. Video cameras recording everyone counting all the papers should be the norm. That is machinery that surely should be invested in. There were changes in numbers for the candidates for president in real time on TV screens that were never properly explained, and an unprecedented stop in counting real time in various swing states on election night. Clear politicization in the appointment of judges is potentially dangerous for freedom and fairness in later legal challenges. And where was the Supreme Court in all this? One of my cats. Most Supreme Court judges badly let down the American people in refusing to hear any case concerning the election that reached them. And Vice President Mike Pence let down the American people big time on January the 6th. As for the mainstream media, it is frankly nauseating that they have become so heavily biased and politicized. Most journalists today are not real investigative reporters trying to be as objective in their assessments as they humanly can, but are instead partisan political parrots, refusing even to look at information that would counter their leftist and woke claims. And as for the growing oppressive censorship by social media, especially YouTube, frankly, it is outrageous that this is being allowed to happen. After all the riots in various American cities by leftists and anarchists last year, which destroyed so much property, these criminals have largely been treated far more leniently than the patriotic Americans who were arrested after January the 6th and appear to be being mistreated and abused in jail. Democrats are currently creating another witch hunt, not just against President Trump yet again, but also against ordinary Americans. Doesn't January the 6th remind you of the setup of the Reichstag fire incident in Germany, not long after Hitler became Chancellor there in 1933, which allowed him and his Nazi thugs to gain more power quickly as they changed German society, especially with regard to the education of young people to fit their oppressive, racist and anti-Semitic stamp. As for critical race theory, which is deeply racist and vile, and the indoctrination of young people by largely leftist-leaning educators and academics in American schools, colleges and universities, sadly the USA has already fallen considerably in recent years. I've already watched political persecution in my own home country of Britain, of Tommy Robinson in particular, but also other people, and the demonization by mainstream media and others of anyone who dares show backbone and refuses to bow to the wishy-washy, largely amoral, relativistic and false narrative of the failed multicultural experiment there. Hate crime legislation in Britain and elsewhere in Western Europe has turned free speech and simply expressing an opinion into a potential crime, which can send you to prison and destroy your career, even your life. It's already creeping in the USA. Don't let it continue. No one has the right not to be offended. You should have the right to have and express opinions, however unpleasant many other people may find them, so long as you do not back them up with actual physical violence or clear and unequivocal incitement to others to commit violence. As attributed to Edmund Burke, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And women, of course. That is so true, and we can see the results in the USA today. And, as any abuse survivor knows, the longer you wait to stand up, protect yourself, and to regain your wholeness and your freedom, the harder the battle will be to do so. It is not too late in the USA, but the fight will already be difficult. Complacency has to be thrown out, and instead every American, that's you, who cares about living in true freedom under fair laws and even-handed justice, and there are many millions more of you than the minority who is seeking to have power over you and to oppress you, needs to get involved and stay involved. There's so much you can do. Writing letters, expressing opinions, making videos, contacting your local representatives, seeking to serve on local school boards and in local government, supporting recently created news organizations and journalists who actually are doing the job they are supposed to do. And above all, pressurizing for full and fair audits of 2020 in every state, and doing all you can to ensure that the real result of 2020 is not only publicly revealed, but is fully restored as soon as possible. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day and stand up and be counted.